Hello, I wanted to make a review video of after reading the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I know everything is not great. The lighting's not great. It's a little bit of a scuff setup. It's early morning in my truck cab. I'm trying to just make this video to get it out of the way so I can start concentrating on new things. And giving myself permission to make bad videos so that because I'm not fully capable of making good videos yet. So it is what it is, I guess. I'm going to try to improve my process and keep improving as I go. But I wanted to start taking notes and making videos about content I interact with a lot for my own sake, so that I have. I think the process itself will help me remember, or I'm hoping will help me engage with the material better and remember it better. A book I read earlier this year it was a short biography of Jonathan Edwards. I've just already started to notice how much I've forgotten about it, and I really enjoyed it. And I was hoping that some sort of a process like this might help me remember more, and or even potentially give me something to look back and refresh from my memory with. Um, so yeah, my notes aren't incredibly. Um, I'm sure I will improve the process later on. I'll just use what I have and see how it goes. I already made a short video, and I'll use the notes for that and try to expand on them and then go into some more notes. So, like I said in the short, I am unsure about the connection to the ancient Toltec wisdom. I couldn't tell if it was a legitimate, like something. He didn't spend a lot of time on in establishing like his history with it, or um, I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was um, like had roots that he had studied something from somewhere, or if it was kind of part of his heritage and things he'd picked up, or I don't know. I don't know what the situation is on that. So, in some ways, like including, I guess it's part of his. Yeah, there's a thing on the cover. It says a Toltec wisdom book, and it is definitely mentioned in the book, and it's sort of an appeal to authority, um, the authority of ancient wisdom, which I don't know if it. Um, I don't know if there's a connection there that warrants that appeal. Um, some useful advice in the book is um, is to kill the parasites in your mind and take dominion over yourself and what you believe. So there's a lot of thought around what is it that you believe, and I guess I'm going to be mixing up my notes as I think about. This won't be super clean, but yeah, the ideas of like there's a shared dream of culture that you were invited into by your parents and others. And he talks about hooking your attention. They hook your attention and bring you in, bring you along into a set of agreements that are part of your culture. Um, and I think it is useful. He thinks that a lot of this process, it seems like, is a totally negative process. I don't know. It didn't seem from the book that there was any kind of redemptive quality to that process, which I think is short-sighted. It might be correct I think the correct way to view that process, or I don't know where I'm at with it, is that it is a necessary process, but is has been done by foolish people for a while, because I think there's been a constant regression in our um, overall capacity for wisdom through the preceding generations. I think we've lost wisdom. I think part of that is we've lost the voice of the elder in our culture, where they've disappeared or been siloed, or however it happened. And obviously, just because you're old doesn't mean you're wise. But I think we've lost the voice that used to. I think in my imagination, there used to be a process of sharing wisdom and down the generations, and I think it seems like we've broken that. That we don't have a useful way of passing on wisdom. So I think our generations have been progressively less wise for a little while. I'm not sure how far back that goes. But so I think that it is important to recognize the agreements that you've been brought into as part of your culture, and to inventory them, and to take your own personal dominion over them, to select what you will keep and what you will update or discard. And so you're in a position to, I think, I have this idea of like putting your own hands on your own life, and not depending on others to guide you, or not surrendering your dominion over your life to others to be controlled, but you can voluntarily accept things that you perceive as helpful or wise, but not just because somebody with authority told you. Yeah, so the useful advice: kill the parasites in your mind. So the parasites in your mind are the judge and the victim. So I'm not sure, it's not completely clear, but I think it's something like a victim mentality is the victim, obviously, and the judge is a judgmental voice, I think. So it's basically, in his view, there's these voices that live in your mind and take energy from you and from your being happy. And I think that's part of the shallowness of this book, I think, is that happiness is it seems like his guide to what is good. I think there's more to life than being happy. It is a childlike innocence that he's pointing towards. I think there is something to learn there, and there's something to integrate into a mature adult, but I don't think that's going backwards, or like regressing to the state of a child is the outcome that I don't think it's the proper outcome to look for. Let's see. So overall, for the book, I think it is critical to take control of our agreements. I don't agree with the agreements offered in the book, and I went through each one and gave my own version that I think is at least better, or the one I would like more, I think. I'll get to that in a bit. I think following the author's path leads to adolescent understanding, not to mature understanding. A lot of it is a coping strategy and not a path to victory. I think it's like, I guess what my note said is, I think it it, yeah, especially like the end of the book is like, use your imagination to bring yourself into a heaven inside your imagination. Um, I think we can do better than that. I think, rather than trying to, yeah, imagine our way into heaven, I think the imagination can be a useful tool, but I like, there was a quote by T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia, talking about, I don't think I can do the whole quote, but it's talking about the dreamers of the day are dangerous men because they may act their dreams with open eyes and bring things into reality. And I think that's what we're capable of. I think we are, as children of God, able to speak things into the world, and through and we have less power than he does, so we also need to use our hands, and we work with others, to create and build. But I think we have real dominion over the world, over the earth, and we can and do and are responsible for what is and how things are in the world and in the real world, not in an imagination. Let's see. So one other thing about this book, I haven't been reading a lot, and I've been, most of my like intellectual work recently for a while has been videos and podcasts and things like that, and so I'm interested in the difference and the advantages and disadvantages between both, books and videos. And one of the things I'm noticing reading is that it seems like the format is more open, or it feels easier for me to go on useful tangents, things that he brings up. I can integrate them into my own thoughts, and I have time to sit and pause or even read it again. And I think that's been a useful experience. And one of the ones I almost brushed past it. I was tempted to just move on and not think about it. But his challenge to forgive, really was a heavy challenge for me. I think I've done a pretty good job of, um, I don't know, it's like I don't know, it feels like a surface level of forgiveness that I've maintained as kind of a default, but I need to go back and examine and make sure that everything is. I want to, like, there's almost like a clean mind feeling that I can imagine having, and making sure that my mind is clean, and, there's no rot, and there's no, decay in there from from not letting go of things that I should let go of. And so that's for myself, and he brings this up, for yourself, for those that are near you, even God. And I know that there's been, through my history, there's been a lot of times where I've been frustrated and angry at myself, at others, at God. So I need to go back and make sure that that's all clean and forgiven. And then the next level challenge is to forgive those in the world. And I think that is in line with biblical teaching, but it's not something that I've examined and really worked on. And I think it would be healthy and good to forgive, even, and I'm not sure. Well, I'll have to examine it and see if there's some situations that feel like they don't deserve forgiveness, but maybe there's more than one word to talk about. Like there's some things that it feels like we have one word, but we need two or three. for the processes that they describe. But there are some people that it seems like I should still, I don't know if I should hold an account, or just to remember that I don't treat them the same as some. I don't know. There's some. Maybe it's because they haven't repented. Maybe there's a difference, and they're not willing to acknowledge the harm that they've done. Maybe there's a difference, but anyways, there's some sort of process, and even if they don't acknowledge or ask for forgiveness, there's still a letting go. I think that's healthy for me. So again, that's a tangent from the book. It's a small section of the book that I pulled that tangent from, but it was personally affecting and personally impacting for me, and that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to be a person that just looks for things to tell other people about. I'm looking for things that I can improve for myself, because I think that's the path forward for me, and I don't want to be just somebody that preaches. I want to be somebody that is open, receptive to changing and to improving. So I didn't do a great job starting out with the chapter 1 of taking notes. But in chapter 1, I ran across the domestication idea, which was really useful for me in my own thinking. It put a word to a process that I had seen before, that I noticed and I had been paying attention to, but it put the correct word, I think, to it, of domestication. And he kind of uses it as the process by which children are brought into their culture. I'm not sure. I don't know, that I think that's part of it, but and so there's like this tension between the wild and the domesticated, and I think a lot of times when you see a dichotomy like that, there's a third option, and I think a lot of times the third option is the way through, or the way to resolve the dichotomy. And I think some initial thoughts, I haven't done a deep exploration of this, but my instinct was to look for a third, or a resolution to the dichotomy in a third option. And the one or some of the kind of names of the concept that I came up with was to become transcendent, or to become sovereign. So I think you can take parts of being wild and parts of being domesticated. I think they are both parts of who we are, and important parts to integrate and to learn. But I think we should step through that to become sovereign in ourselves, or to become transcendent in a way. And that might be too heavy or too high of a word. I might need to ground that word a little bit. Sovereign sounds right, but also might give the wrong impression. These are words that we don't use really well, and so I think a lot of people might be confused by them. But there's basically the idea of a integrated self that's taken the good from being wild, and the good from being domesticated, and taken control in a way that lets them guide their life in a purposeful way. So that's another one of those kind of tangential thoughts that I was able to develop because I was reading the book. I feel like that if I had passed it by in a podcast or something, I might not have had the time to sit there and think about it and develop my thought like that. In chapter 2, the first agreement that he introduces, and he introduces it as be impeccable with your word. I'm just going to, this is a little while ago. Part of reading this book for me, it's taken me forever to read it, even though it's a tiny book, and very easy to read. I don't have good habits for reading right now, and it's been a while since I've read all the agreement chapters. It was a while ago that I read them, so I'm just going to go off my notes and get what I can, and hopefully do better next time. So anyways, chapter 2 was be impeccable. It's the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. I think this is an adolescent agreement based on adolescent understanding of the world. It isn't bad, but it can be improved. The power of words to move people and shape the world is a core truth. So, yeah, I think paying attention to your word and what you say is important. I think our words do have power, and I think that's part of what his understanding and what he brings out that I think is correct. I would like to replace the first agreement with 2 of my own. And this is, I don't know, there's a part of me that wonder, like, I got a little bit too much into this, into like replacing with my own. There's part of it that's good and part of it that's bad. So like, I might have overdone looking for a way to make a new agreement for some of these when it wasn't necessary, and I might have made too many, but it was still a good exercise to like go through and what would I like to make my agreements. I think that's a worthy exercise. So the 2 I came up with to replace be impeccable with your word is to be wise with words and infuse my words with intention and responsibility. So I'm sorry that I don't remember as much about the chapter to be able to say more about that, but I do think there was it was like almost a childlike understanding. My recollection of it is like, be impeccable with your words. It was like, be perfect with your words in like a way that, I don't know. It did seem childlike. It was just like so innocent, and it's trying to be innocent and pure. But I think at least the way I want to be, is to be wise. And sometimes you don't say the thing that the innocent person would say because it's wise to not to say something that, I don't know. There's reasons to check yourself, or to rephrase, or to be conscious of how they are going to perceive. I think that's part of it. Is you are not, I don't know if you're totally responsible for how they are going to take it, but you can't be completely innocent of the fact that they are going to interpret it some way, and trying to understand how they will receive it, and tailor how you speak to get the it almost sounds manipulative, and maybe that's the perverse side of it, is to manipulate. But I think there is a good and wise thing to recognize that there is a way that you are perceived, and that is part of your interaction with them, and like, you don't take full responsibility for that, but you do. I think there's some, at least partial responsibility for how that interaction goes. So I want to be wise with words, and I want to infuse my words with intention and responsibility. So I don't want to be casual and flippant, and I think that's part of what he's talking about. And I think it's important to recognize that words do have power, and I don't want to just throw them around casually, but I do want to be, all right, like I said, be wise with words and infuse my words with intention and responsibility. Chapter 3 is don't take anything personally, is his offering for an agreement. I'll just read my notes. Initially, I wanted to agree with this, but as he explained it, I realized it wasn't what I expected. Instead of not being damaged by what people think or say, the idea is not being touched at all. So he had this, so he created this kind of idea of like building this armor or this wall or something. I forget what kind of metaphors he used, but it was basically don't be touched by things that people say. Here's my notes again. A better agreement may be don't be fragile. In my mind, this is an ancient redwood tree. Let the wind blow, the fires rage, the critters chew and make holes, but it doesn't change the nature of the tree. The other way is like a tree confined to a greenhouse. It isn't adapted to live in the world outside. So yeah, that's my idea of, or the picture I have of the difference of what I want between what he said. I think what he said is more like a tree that's in a greenhouse that's protected, it won't survive outside because it's never had to. I think a better way is to be more resilient, to be the tree that can stand outside and weather the storms and all the things that come by. And so a positive reframing that I offer is be robust. So instead of don't take anything personally, I think a possible better agreement is, I don't know if that's not really written as an agreement, but anyways, the aim is to be robust, to be able to take damage and not fall or not fail because of it. I think that is a better way than trying to avoid all damage, because I think it's just too fragile to try that. I don't think it's a long-term strategy. Chapter 4 is don't make assumptions. That's his offering for an agreement. Don't make assumptions. I'll read my notes. I am not sure about this. It is good practice if you can notice and reduce your assumptions. Assumptions may not be totally avoidable. Recognize when you're basing what you think on assumptions could be useful. Making it a practice to give a positive interpretation as a general rule could be good. I don't want to deny myself the tool of making good assumptions. A better agreement is be aware of assumptions. So yeah, I think making assumptions is a useful tool if you are wise. It is something to be used carefully, but it is a shortcut. It might be what we call a heuristic. It helps you navigate through certain interactions, possibly more successfully if you use it well. But there are a lot of ways to get it wrong. So I think that's important to know about them and to not put too much weight on assumptions. But I think it's a useful tool to use. And I think it is unwise to deny yourself the use of that tool if you can learn to use it properly. So I think, again, my replacement for the agreement, his version is don't make assumptions. My version is be aware of assumptions. I think that's the way to do it. Chapter 5 is always do your best, as his agreement. Always do your best. It isn't a bad aspiration, but I am not confident I can be sure when I have done my best. Living with this agreement could get in the way of trying again or improving. It could promote a habit of deciding I have done my best prematurely. It could also get in the way of resting. If I could if I could always be doing a better thing, how am I doing my best? I could see this agreement working for some people, but I want to teach myself to live in an overflowing abundance. My agreement is to learn to live from an overflowing spirit. And this comes from like a lot of work that I've gone through, or like part of my development of my thinking, that this has been a key point in my life that I've introduced here. I found an excuse to introduce it, but I think it's the right place for introducing this overflowing spirit. Rather than, I feel like this always do your best has some of that like grasping, needing, wanting kind of nature to it, that I don't want to be a part of my life. I want to learn to live, in an overflowing spirit. Is more like, is like overflowing abundance. Is the world is abundant, I am abundant, God is abundant, that we live in this so much and plenty, and why try to be so, like, I don't know, it's almost like, instead of having goals and wants and needs, plant good seed and let the harvest come, and be abundant. So it's might not be a great explanation. I'm not sure if I am capable of giving a better explanation right now, but I think some of the traps I mentioned in my notes for always do your best. One way it could be a trap is that it could prevent you from trying again when you should. You could say, I did my best, and that could be like your excuse, and leave it where there might be something, well, did I do my best? And that might be a legitimate question. Could I try again? Maybe I can do better. And some of that's wisdom, like to know, should I try again? And then the other way it could be a trap is always, like, if you're unsure, did I do my best? Or like, it could be like, if you always are supposed to be doing, is what I'm doing right now, is it completely my best? Like, you could really spin yourself up, like trying to make sure that you're always doing your best. I don't know. There's a part of relaxing and letting go, and I mean, it's sort of I don't know. There is a way that I don't know. I'm aware of how the possible traps might be resolved by somebody. I don't know, if you know that they're there, you could use this always do your best and just be wise about avoiding the traps. That might be a solution. But my offering is learn to live from an overflowing spirit, and it's hard to grasp, and maybe I need to write my own book about it, but that might not be very apparent what I mean by that. But for me, that's my agreement that I want to make. Chapter 6. So we're past the 4 agreements. Chapter 6. The author thoughts. I've tried to split up into notes about what the author is thinking and what I'm thinking. I haven't got this system well done yet. It's not where it should be. Let's see. I think I need to finish this later. I think I'm taking too much time. It is about 2 weeks since the last segment. I'm going to try to patch together what I can from my notes. I realize now, going over them, that I was depending on my ability to remember what I meant. On some of them, I don't quite follow what I was thinking. I would have to go back and read the chapters again, I guess. But I'm just going to move forward and try to get this done for now, and try to improve my methods and my notes for future videos. So this is my representation of the author's thoughts in chapter 6. Freedom is to be who we really are, and the real you is still a little child who never grew up. The process of domestication installs the judge and the victim in us, the dream of the planet, of society, and is viewed as a parasite living on the energy you feed it. The masteries to become Toltecs involve awareness, transformation, and intent. To be aware is to be aware of the dream of the planet, which includes the agreements you were taught. So this lets you know that this puts you in a situation where you're able to engage with the agreements that you've put yourself under by being taught to. So then transformation, you can transform using new agreements to change your own dream. So there's many threads kind of converge in the book, and they're not like super well defined, like they bleed one into each other. But so the dream of the planet is sort of the combined conscious kind of energy and story that your culture, or he calls it the planet, but it would probably be more localized to your culture, that you learn, and the agreements come with it that they teach you. And so to transform, you learn new agreements so that you can follow a new dream. And then intent is the other mastery. And you can in intent, you use your life force to align yourself in a positive direction. And then he talks about killing the parasite. And the parasite is the kind of the idea of the fear and the judgment that you learn to use on yourself, and it uses your own energy because you feed it, but it doesn't serve you. It serves the dream of the planet, or your culture teaches you to take this and basically feed it, and it's against you, but you don't recognize it necessarily. So this is, I guess, the book is about recognizing it and dismantling it. So again, this isn't like clear cut. There's like 3 steps to it, but it's not like clear cut. It's more of like, it's a combined effort of all these things. So piece by piece, you dismantle the agreements you were taught and adopt new agreements you select. Then there's awareness and the warrior, and then there's surrender to the angel of death. So these are ideas he talks about, and my kind of summation of it is these are sort of mixed together. They're not really clear cut. They represent the willingness to do the work of transformation, to become a stronger person, able to go to war with weak aspects of yourself, and to surrender to the reality of our limited existence. And then in this chapter was the call to forgiveness. That I went on a more of a tangent, and I thought it applied to me. So that was impactful to me. My thoughts on this chapter, here in my notes, is regressing to the wild childhood is not the way forward. Integration of the wild and the cultured spirit and mastery through taking control and responsibility for myself is the path I choose. I want to become transcendent by separating myself from the dream of the planet and take dominion over my life by reshaping my agreements so that I can learn to rule over myself under God. So, I guess a little bit of a recapping. So I think he is guiding in kind of almost like an innocence, kind of going back to childhood kind of idea. And I don't think that's the way forward. I think the way forward is to take the wild aspects of the child and our wild nature and sort of the things that are helpful and good about that, nurture them and bring them forward, as well as the things that are good and right about the culture. Some of the things that the culture hands us will have wisdom behind it, and some of those things might have been forgotten. The wisdom might have been forgotten, but we can still use them if we can find the wisdom. If we can learn what they're for, we can integrate those parts with the good from the wild nature, and we can become something even more. Rather, I think moving forward with that, we can become a person that takes our life in our own hands and doesn't depend on others to lead us around by the nose, but we take responsibility for our own consciousness and our own decisions. And then I think from that position, I'm in a better place to submit myself to God. And that, as being a Christian, I think that's my call, is to submit myself to God. But I think we live in a sort of a personal dominion. I think the call to Adam in the Bible, I think that still applies to us, that there is still the earth to live in. We are still here to do our work and to learn to live in where we are placed. I don't think we give up all of that and like God just does everything. I think there's been too much of that in the Christian circles that I've been a part of. There's been too much fatalism and just like kind of waiting for God to do everything. I think we are here to learn to be who we are and then submit ourselves more proactively rather than passively. We submit ourselves to God and we live under His rule, but we still learn to live our lives. It's sort of like a picture of like children and parents. Like a parent doesn't want to see their kid just lounge around the house doing nothing, waiting for the parent to do everything. Like that's not what they want to see. I don't think that's what God wants to see. I think He wants to see us grow up and become who He's made us to be and work with Him and through Him, taking dominion over ourselves. And as we become better and wiser, we will have the power and the and the capability to do good in the world to others as well. I guess I got a little off track from the book, but that's some of my thoughts. Chapter 7, it's a short chapter. It was my note here is living in a heavenly dream using imagination. So he kind of gives a picture of living in a heavenly dream. I think, again, this is what I have written down is it's a coping strategy and not a path to victory. And I really think that it's similar to like the regressing to a child. It's this innocent kind of, and there's like, this is part of his kind of the flavor of the whole book, or some of it has this like innocence to it, that if this is the offering of like, if you learn to live this way in your imagination, then nothing can affect you, and you can just go through your life innocent and free. And I think that's a coping strategy. It might work to some extent for some people, but I think we should look for better solutions for living, that engage reality itself, and that we can, as we learn to change ourselves, we can start to have ripple effects on the reality around us, especially if we can start combining our efforts with others. We can start to have the dream that we see, that we can start to act it out, and it can become reality rather than stay a dream. I think that's what part of being made in God's image is, that we can speak and do, and we have power to shape the world. So I think we should learn to use it. Let's see. I'm going back to my notes from my short, see if I can pick up anything useful. I'm going back over my overall notes for the book. I think it is critical to take control of our agreements. So I think that's a good thing for me reading the book. I think just noticing the agreements, I think that's a good and useful thing, a good exercise, and a good way to frame the ideas. I don't agree with the agreements offered in the book, and I went through that more specifically. Following the author's path leads to adolescent understanding, not mature understanding. A lot of it is a coping strategy, not a path to victory. The useful lines of thought, the shared dream versus our own dream. So that's kind of a useful idea to like see that the things that we believe produce sort of an image, or calling it a dream is a pretty good approximation of what's happening. That we can live in the dream that we are handed by the culture or by our parents, or however we got it. But then as we gain awareness of it, we can shape our own dream. And I think that instead of, like, his idea is to retreat into your own dream, and to live in sort of a state of illusion. But I think we can project our dream. We can learn to become powerful, that it transforms us, and then potentially transforms the world around us a little bit. I don't think it's going to change the whole world. I think that might be out of our reach, but we can start to change little parts of it that are significant and real, especially if we work with others. So the other useful lines of thought, domestication and the process of being taught are agreements. So yeah, that really crystallized an idea that I'd been working on for a while, and noticing that, and this is the right word for it, the domestication, that people being taught and treated like, I think it's definitely too much. Like, people are domesticated to the point that they are like cattle, like livestock, rather than people. And I think they are meant. I think they are meant for much more. But many powers that be prefer human cattle. They're easier to control. They're not chaotic. I think growing people to a higher level is, it's scary, because especially for people in power, they want to control, they want to like have everything encapsulated in their own vision of everything. But I think if you let people become who they can be, there's a certain that produces a strong force that is in some ways chaotic, and it would be difficult to control. And there would be things that we would have to learn of how to be people together. That's a process that it's not completely without risk and without trouble. There would be troubles that we would have to understand and work through. But I think domestication is the safe and easy process that people are taught because it's easy to control. I think there are parts of it that are good, and part of the shared understanding that brings up a culture to a place of coherence that kind of works in a way that helps elevate us from our wild state into a state that can sustain higher order systems. But I think we are often shoved towards a more tame version of it, so that we can be locked in a cage or be made useful to the machine, rather than find our own path to the life that we want, or that a life that would be better for us. So let's see, some personal challenge. The personal challenge from the book that I found in that chapter 6, the forgiveness, was something that struck me, because it's difficult. It's not something I want to do, but I think it's something worthwhile. The challenge to forgive, make sure that I have fully forgiven. That includes fully forgiving myself, all of those that are close to me, and even God. That is something that's worthwhile to think through, especially for forgiving myself. For a long time, I hated myself, so there could be still some strings of that, or like some remnants of that left over, that I can go through and cleanse and make sure that I have fully forgiven myself for all the mistakes I made and all the failures I had. And then the other one that rings more true to me, I think, is making sure that I've forgiven God, that there were times where I was angry and frustrated with God, and make sure that I've gone through and cleansed all of that. I think it's a good exercise. And then the next level challenge is to forgive all the world, even the evil people who I don't want to forgive. And I'm not sure it's not something I want to do. I think I'm not sure if this is another situation where there needs to be more than one word for forgive. I think there's things. It's a value. It's a good thing to let go of the evil and the rot of just carrying around like hate or I don't even know, but like negative emotions towards all the people that have done wrong or foolishness in our world and in our culture. I don't think it's useful to carry that. So I think it is there is a good practice of letting go of that. That is part of forgiveness, but I'm not sure that I don't know that forgiveness should also include like forgetting what they've done. I think I still this is just I might refine my views later, but I think it's still good to remember that we do have enemies, that they are against us, that they do hate us, and they want us to do poorly in life. Um, there are evil people, and they are doing evil, and I haven't forgotten that, and I haven't forgotten that we do have opponents in this life. But I don't want to poison myself by carrying resentment against them. So, that's a next level challenge to work through. It wasn't the main focus of the book, but it was something that was brought up sort of tangentially, but it was impactful to me. So I think with that, I'll try to wrap this up and hopefully do better next time with my notes and with making a review closer to when I remember more about what the book was. I can definitely improve a lot in my methods, but I need to give myself the freedom to make bad videos to begin with, because I'm not full. If I would waited around until I can make great videos, I would never make the one that I can make right now. So I'm doing my best to make something good and something hopefully that will help me remember good things or useful things from reading. And I'll leave it there.